Hi, everybody. Today we are talking about the idea of how can I be an effective caregiver versus an efficient caregiver, and how many of us even know the difference. I'm Pamela D Wilson. My website is PamelaDWilson.com. Today I'm going to share 3 ideas around how to become more effective as a caregiver, or really more effective in any area of your life. So how many of you squeeze as much as possible into every single day? By the end of the day, you are so exhausted that you fall into bed and you think, thank God I made it through today. Or on the other hand, how many of you end your day and you have this list and you're checking off everything and you think, wow, I did an amazing job today with everything that I did, and I'm very proud of all of my accomplishments. In a perfect world, that's how we would all feel every day. So today we're going to do what I call little brain stretching to understand the difference between being effective in your life versus being efficient in your life. And in caregiving, it doesn't matter what you do at work, whether you're a fireman or a librarian or you work in a corporate job or you're a service person or you're a caregiver or you're retired, we can all become more effective and efficient in our lives. So let's begin with the idea of efficiency. If you're efficient, you may have this long list of tasks that you do, and you check off all the boxes every day and you get it done, and you're focused on processes to help you do all of these things much easier. And it works, and you feel amazed and you feel great about that. But what I find is many caregivers and individuals that I talk to who are very efficient sometimes can be stuck in their efficiency, and there's this whole world out here that they fail to see until eventually they say, well, I feel like I'm stuck. I feel like I'm stuck in the same place I was 6 months ago or a year ago or 2 years ago. I'm just not making any progress. Well, do you know why that is? It's because you're being very efficient at things that you're doing, but you're not being effective in thinking at things that caregivers and people don't normally think about. And so we're going to talk about those. So if you're a caregiver or whatever you happen to be, what are your goals in life? I find that a lot of times people will wait to set goals until the beginning of the year for New Year's resolutions. There's no reason to wait till the beginning of the year. You can set a goal today or next week or in May or July or October. The idea is figuring out something that you want to accomplish and setting that goal. That's where effectiveness starts to come in, when you match efficiency with goals and where you want to get. So people who are effective, this is tip number 1, avoid crisis by planning. If you are a caregiver and you don't have a plan for yourself, your self-care, for your future when you need care, or a plan for your aging parents, you're probably in this hamster wheel running and running and running and running and not getting anywhere. And something unexpected happens and you have to react to it. And then you have a crisis and you have to react to that. You're constantly feeling like you're behind. How many of us feel like that in daily life? It's like there's always something to do. We're never catching up, and we're not really getting to the place where we would love to be, like our dream spot in life. Happens to a lot of us. We have to be able to step back and look at what we're doing. Do you know how you spend your time every day, every week? Where does your time go? A lot of people can't answer that question. A lot of people can't even say what their goals are. So we have to start thinking about how we spend our time and what our goals are and what we want to accomplish, and what on these lists that we keep chasing is really important and maybe should be done, and probably if we do it, it's not going to have a great effect on our life. That's what we want to start thinking about to look at being effective versus efficient. Number 2 on the list of how to be an effective caregiver or person or mom or person at work, anything, is to look at a long-term approach in life. And that is a lot of time what we don't do. We're so focused on this week, today, what we have to do, that we can't think about doing little things today that can affect our lives in a month or 6 months or a year or 2 years or 5 years or 10 years. So taking a longer term approach at life involves self-discipline and setting boundaries and saying no to things that don't fit within our goals. Caregivers have a very difficult time setting boundaries and saying no because you want to be helpful. The problem is, if you want to help everybody, you're helping everybody, but you're not helping yourself or your family or your children or your health or your well-being or your career. Constantly saying yes to everything scatters your attention. It scatters your focus. You can't be effective if you're all over the place doing things for everybody and you're not focusing on things for yourself. Another issue, number 3, that caregivers have difficulty with being effective is dealing with conflict. How many of us in our lives have these things that we think are problems over here and we just kind of leave them there, hoping that, maybe if I ignore it, it'll go away. Sometimes it does. Sometimes it turns into a bigger problem. And then we're thinking, oh man, I should have dealt with that, but I didn't. And honestly, sometimes we don't know how to deal with conflict. We don't know how to have conversations within our family or with a spouse or a loved one or coworkers or aging parents. So for these 3 things, the taking a long-term approach in life, becoming comfortable with conflict and avoiding crisis, it really does take a little bit of thought. And it's important to realize we may not have all of those skills, especially if we're young. And I don't mean to pick on young people, but somebody who is 20 has much less day-to-day life experience than someone who is 40 or 60 or 80. It's a time factor. So the way that we can learn to become more effective in our lives is to talk to people who have these skills, who've gained these skills, who know more than we do about a subject like caregiving, or you go see an accountant to get your taxes done, or you have a financial planner to help you save money. It's important to go to experts and people who can help you shortcut these issues that can take away a lot of time. You can waste a lot of years trying to figure out things if you keep bumping into the same problem and getting the same result, when you could go to somebody and get some help and life could be a lot easier and you could be both effective and efficient. So a lot of times, again, caregivers want to focus on all these tasks that they have to get done and avoid things that can make a difference in their life. So let's just look at 2 simple examples. One is health. Health is something that it's priceless. Okay. If you feel good, everything in your life usually is going pretty well and you can do things. The minute you get sick or have a chronic disease, that affects you for the rest of your life. And there are things that you can do today that will have an effect 10 years, 20 years, 30 years now for your health. But if you're not thinking about the bigger picture in the long term, you don't get there. A lot of people start New Year's resolutions and they join a gym, and then 10 days later, they're not seeing results and they quit. That's part of having a short-term view of life versus a long-term view of life. Everybody wants things now. And just because we do something doesn't mean our life is going to change overnight, which is the frustration of many people. But when you gain a different perspective about, if I spend 10 minutes a day on this for 30 days, how can I change this situation? How can I improve this situation? How will my life get better? And if I did this for a year, wow, what would my life look like? These are thoughts that bring effectiveness into our life and get us off that hamster wheel where we're just running and running and running and going absolutely nowhere. The other thing that caregivers want is to help their aging parents do better with their health and become more independent. That's also taking a long-term view. There's so many components involved in these things. And if you've never done it before, if you're a first-time caregiver, you can't expect to know everything that could happen or will happen, especially if you don't have experience with health problems or the healthcare system or doctors or the legal system. So much to learn. So where do you go? If you're a caregiver, my website, PamelaDWilson.com, has a lot of helpful information. My caregiving blog, videos, hundreds of videos here where you're watching this. And by the way, click on the like button, click on the follow button, share these videos with other people you know who are looking for hope, help, and support. Also on my website, links to my weekly podcast, The Caring Generation, online courses for caregivers, one-to-one consultations with me. You can talk to me by video call or telephone call, no matter where you live. I'm Pamela D Wilson. Thanks for being here for this video to talk about becoming a more effective caregiver and really more effective in all areas of your life.